Story time on how I'm in a full circle moment, and it might help you if you listen all the way through. If you want the too long didn't read, scroll all the way to the end and I'll put up a sign and just give you the gist of it. People talk about full circle moments, and I am in the middle of one right now. 3 years ago, I was diagnosed and in treatment for breast cancer. I made it through with flying colors. Everything has been different than you could ever expect. But I had a phenomenal journey, if that makes sense. One of the things that I help people with is upon diagnosis, I help them to think about their mindset, because if I did one thing right during the breast cancer journey, is I had my mind right. I learned to forgive. I knew that resentment couldn't live in a healing body. They just couldn't share space. And I began to forgive people, myself, things, events of resentments that I had been long harboring, because I felt like it contributed to how I created breast cancer. During my beginning stages of treatment, I was actually still in a show. I'm an actor, and that show was in Portland, Oregon. This week has been full circle, for sure. I chatted with 2 young ladies who were either diagnosed or re-diagnosed with breast cancer. I believe that sometimes we get these lessons, but if we don't get the lesson, we have to experience it again. I wanted to make sure that they went into their diagnosis or re-diagnosis understanding something that I understood that helped me to live through my treatment in a different way, knowing that I feel like I was responsible for both how it happened, how I was going to heal. I wanted to give them the same opportunity. There is no space for resentment in a healing body. I believe that I created breast cancer by holding on to resentments, which essentially are cancerous thoughts. All of that is full circle because I entered last night the theater that I spent 8 weeks performing in through treatment. It was almost like hallowed ground. I saw the people who hosted me, who were like my parents while I was here, and the hug. I saw the young lady who played my daughter in the show. I came to watch my friend perform, who was my director in the show. And I was able to see the assistant director who picked me up from the airport when I first got here. 3 years later, on the same week that I actually left here, I just felt like, whoa. Didn't know how I would feel when I got here to Portland, but the word that I had chosen for what this city feels like to me is victorious. It is the last time that I was fully an artist. Since then, I've been healing, returning, discovering what my new version of artistry is, with the extra layer of healing. Does that make sense? Something about this return has been really powerful, and I needed it in a way I didn't know I needed it. And here to see Cecily perform as well is her sister. Melissa also is an artist. And we were just having a discussion over our dinner last night that celebrated Cecily's closing of the show and my 40th birthday, which she couldn't come to because she was performing, which is typical. For artists, you know, we be having to miss shit. We talked about healing things, healing moments. And I just had these conversations about healing resentments. And I didn't realize that I had a resentment surrounding art that I created. I wrote a play called From Colored to Black, completed it in 2019. And it played to a sold-out audience. I performed in it. It's been filmed. Took a year of my life to study and interview and do everything I needed to do. Me and my co-creator made this play happen out of like no support and no help except for just us thugging it out. The play was being turned into a course, and it was by far my greatest accomplishment. But strangely, out of all of the things and the performances I've ever had, my family did not seem to support that one. It was like the only one that like nobody came to, and even though it was on film, No one cared to watch. And I realized that I had some deep resentment surrounding my greatest accomplishment. Last night at the table in this beautiful restaurant, I'm just in tears talking about it. And although I've been coaching these other young women on resentment and forgiveness, I hadn't realized that I wasn't addressing situations, events, things that are hard for resentment around. Because that's not a lesson I want to learn again. I want to get the lesson. So much that I realized that even my content, though I'm very passionate about Black shit, I shy away from talking about being Black in America because how I was so ostracized by people after I wrote that play because I was so passionate about Black shit. My boyfriend asked me yesterday, a couple days ago, he said, babe, why don't you talk about blah, 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 blah. That's what you're really passionate about. I couldn't give him an answer about why I wouldn't talk about it. But I found out because I was in a space, in a place. I returned to a place where I felt victorious. And finally, I could address something that has been sitting there because the way that I feel victory here, I felt strong enough in some ways to address something that I haven't been able to address in other spaces because I was an artist here. And now, why am I not returned? Why have I not returned? Why have I not resumed my artistry? And it's because there's a blockage, and that blockage is due to that resentment. All that to say, though I believe resentment caused cancer in my life, resentment can show up in other ways to prevent you from living the greatest version of your life that you want to live. And for that, you need to address it. One of the ways you can address your resentment that is not easy, but it is simple. Write a letter to the person, the event, the situation, the thing, the place. Read that letter to yourself and then burn it. That will help you to release some of that, get some of it off of your chest. And you can do that for as many people, places, or as many times for the same thing as you need to. And don't forget, you're included in that. I guarantee you have some resentments and some things you need to forgive yourself for. I realize I have a long journey ahead of me for healing how I feel around my play. But if I'm going to continue to be an artist, I have to. If I'm going to continue to be a person who loves, I have to. And if I want to continue to be a woman who enjoys sharing and educating, I have to. I hope that helps. Too long didn't read. Release your resentment. You need to forgive people, places, events in your life that you're holding on to because they cause cancerous thoughts. And I think that those are the things that attributed to my cancer diagnosis. A quick and easy way to do that is to write the situation, the person, the place, a letter, read it to yourself, burn it, release, forgive. If you need to do that multiple times, do that.